Welcome to the Power Breakfast Show. Of course, we carry on with the broadcast today. Time now for the newspaper review on this, the 24th day of August, Thursday, 2017. And of course, to help me take a look at the papers, I'm glad to have Danstan Omari, a lawyer. Welcome to the broadcast, Danstan.
Oh, thanks a lot.
In addition, Charles Munui, political analyst, welcome to the broadcast as well.
Thank you very much.
We have three other analysts that will be joining us even as the program continues to take a look at some of the issues that are making headlines in today's papers. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Let's start by taking a look at today's Nation page 1. And I will refer to the headline, the top story. Members of Parliament plot to reject salary cuts. And I hope we'll be able to display that on the screen for you shortly. And some of the smaller headlines are that even before they are sworn in, legislators are scheming to retain their generous perks when they assume office. They say only newly elected lawmakers should be subjected to the new structure. And of course, gentlemen, as you can imagine, this has caused quite a reaction from Kenyans. Let me read some of the paragraphs in the article itself, just to give you at home a chance to understand what the article is all about. Even before they take the oath of office, members of parliament are plotting on how to reject new salary structures that substantially reduces their salaries and allowances and have the old figures retained. Homa Bay woman representative-elect Gladys Wanga, who is a member of the PAC, accuses the Salaries Commission of embarking on a mission to drastically reduce MPs' pay and allowances without having carried out a job evaluation exercise as required by the Constitution. Another quote here, Kiambu woman representative Gavanu Mushomba, who we are expecting on this program, by the way, she said she'll be joining us, said that the SRC should slash or raise salaries the right way, adding, "I want to be paid well, I want to be honored for who I am." Danstan, are you honored for who you are? Do you feel?
Yeah, we are honored when we charge fees as lawyers.
Okay.
But when we are represented, when we are having our members of parliament, I don't think we have a problem with the position the members of parliament have taken.
Okay.
The problem I have is that we, the people, had the power to sack all these people not to come to parliament. We brought back the same bunch of people.
Not all of them. A substantial number went home.
I'm saying even the people are brought. The women rep from Kiambu has not stepped in parliament, but already the syndrome of others has already touched her. So the question that we need to ask as a nation is that do we have political parties that differ on anything but agree on salaries? If you see Mushomba comes from Jubilee.
Yes.
If you see Wanga comes from NASA, these are die-hard protagonists who are fighting so bad that even others are saying that it's so chaotic. But when it comes to salary, when it comes to their pacts, they are one and united. I really sympathize for the commission, because the other tribe in 2013 and 2014, they ganged up against the commission, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and said they will not approve budget. They will not give them a coin. This is the same blackmail that they did at one time with the judiciary. This is the same blackmail at one time they were putting the president on over this salaries issue. I don't think that it is fair to hold the country at ransom, but as Wahiga will tell you for free, they will have their way. Because
you think they're going to win this battle?
They will win their battle
against a body that is mandated to oversee salaries like the SRC, who are independent. You still feel?
You see, the problem is that they have one tool called they are the ones who approve budgets. What they'll do, they'll give Sarah Serem a budget of 1,000 shillings for a whole year. The commission will collapse. And that position, nobody can take it from them. Two, they have one thing they have cited for, that there are procedures and regulations and laws on how to reduce salaries. For example, there's a lacuna. They are sitting members of parliament of the other the 11th parliament. They have come back. Those ones who have exited will be paid their gratuity. These ones will not be paid their gratuity. They will wait for pension. It is unlawful under international law and Kenyan law to reduce the salary of somebody what he or she has been earning. So how does the commission navigate that? Because if Wanga has been earning 1.2 million, the same Wanga who has come back must continue earning 1.2 million or higher. You can never reduce.
And I need to bring Charles in. So where's your stance? Who is correct in this whole matter? Because on one hand you're saying Kenyans, you made mistakes and brought back a big percentage of the members of parliament whom you vowed to send home. But on the other hand, you're also saying members of parliament are justified.
Morally, okay, the members of parliament are wrong. Legally, they are right. That is the position you agree.
I think both ways they are wrong. In two senses.
Morally and legally.
Yes. Number one, like you asked my colleague how they can go about harassing these people. Over and above denying them resources, they can also annul the Gazette notice. They have the powers to annul that particular Gazette notice, and I think that is the direction they will go. Now, looking at the whole aspect, you ask for a job, Wahiga Mwaura. I come in here, I'm looking for a job. It doesn't matter whether I was working here last year. If my term of service is 5 years, it's over, it's over.
Your contract has elapsed.
It has ended, and the constitution is very clear. That's why you cannot walk into that parliament the following week and say, I still belong here, if you lose. So, what this narrative they're sending us, that they are there for 2 terms, 3 terms, is null and void as far as I'm concerned. You asked for a job. Before you got that, before you actually went for that interview, you knew that you're earning so much because the body mandated to give you that particular provision has told you in as many words that this is what you're going to actually gazetted that information. So you knew if you are not interested in that amount of money, what you should have done is drop out, for God's sake, so that another Kenyan. I vied. I miserably lost. I would have comfortably taken 300,000. I'm sure my colleague would have taken 400,000, and we move on. Those are the kind of things that we need to tell Kenyans that it is totally not justifiable. Now, looking at members of parliament across the board, because even the Senate, the National Assembly, even the County Assembly,
they have all been affected.
They have a way of making laws that only favor them. And I'll give you 2 examples. The first one, if you look at the CDF Act right now as it is, they were supposed to be kicked out of the CDF committee via the National Government CDF Act 2015. Effective 19th February last year, 2016. They did not move out. What they did, much as they are not in the committee per se, they're in another committee called the Constituency Oversight Committee, which is not CDF committee. What they did, they went through the back door. The people that are supposed to select, the panel that is supposed to select, has a provision for 1 individual from the office of the member of parliament. Number 2, they go to parliament, they're the ones who are supposed to approve this particular committee. So they're basically controlling the committee. It doesn't matter who you select into that committee. So, number 2, if you look at how you remove members of parliament from office, recalling them, it is totally impossible. You wait for 2 years, you get a court order to prove that they have committed a crime, then you have only 1 year, because 1 year to the elections you cannot remove them. You need to go through collection of signatures, exactly. All that hula. You know, the whole story is telling you that it is easier to actually remove a president than it is to remove a member of the county assembly. Now, it is ridiculous.
Dunstan, not every member of the 290 MPs that were elected agree with, are standing to, disagree with the proposed pay cuts. We have people like John Kiarie, Dagoretti South. We have Mohammed Ali Nyali. Is this a sign that maybe some of the newer crop are willing to look at things differently, or do they not know? Are they being naive in the fact that they are first-time, members, to sit in such a position and are trying to please the public?
What happens is that I call the 2 gentlemen, and most of them are coming from the media world, that they are innocently naive. They have not gone, they have not landed in that parliament. They have not known the job description of a member of parliament. The problem is a societal problem. Wahiga, when you look at the job description of a member of parliament, that is a constitutional job description provided by the Constitution. But the actual job description of a member of parliament, as defined by the Kenyan population, is totally different.
Give us your view of that job description.
The member of parliament has only 2 jobs to do: make laws, that is legislate, and 2, provide oversight of the executive. There is no any other job provided for. But when members of parliament land in parliament, there is a new job description that has been prescribed either by themselves, by the way they have conducted themselves, or by the members of the citizenry. For example, issues of fundraising for funerals, issues of wanting to pay dowry for people, issues for paying school fees, and all these issues, it is almost impossible for a member of parliament to win an election if he does not have money and if he is not John Paul. It's only John Paul who succeeded where everybody else failed. So the commercialization of campaigns, the commercialization of elections has made it almost impossible for a member of parliament to go to parliament like John Kerry. He thinks that once he's in parliament he's going to make those laws. The reason my good counsel has told you is that there is nowhere a member of parliament is allowed to be a part of the executive. Constitutionally, worldwide, there are three arms of government: the legislature that makes laws and oversight, the judiciary that interprets those laws, and the executive that implements
the laws.
The CDF Act is an illegality, a total illegality, because a member of parliament can never be part of the executive. The money that goes to the CDF, ask every Kenyan. If you do a referendum today, Kenyans will throw everybody out who wants CDF not to be there. But that's an illegality. That money should be with the governors. That money should be with the national government to implement. But what do we have? When this matter went to the Supreme Court, an advisor was provided for that thing is an illegality. Parliament, and that's what Munyui tells you, went round it and made a mongrel that does not exist. They are sitting, they are getting that money, and nobody is raising the issue. That is the question Wahiga Kenyans need to ask. Do we have a national discussion on how we need this country to run, or do we leave members of parliament to capture state organs? And that is what is called the capture of state organs. I'm telling you, these guys will get a way to go around it. One, they will just make that gazette notice null and void.
So this discussion we're having is a waste of time.
We have the media that sets the agenda. We have the analysts that will be very passionate with the citizens. But the reality, the practicability of enforcing these things is almost impossible. Any organ that has stood against the members of parliament, ask my good Professor PLO Lumumba. When at the EACC all the guns were
trained on
parliament, he woke up in the morning at midnight, the law had been passed and the office had been removed, abolished.
Let me bring Charles into this. Charles, two things. Number one, members of parliament don't come from some strange planet.
Yes.
They come from amongst us, right? And already some are complaining that even the new crop that we expected to come with a different voice have quickly joined the narrative. That's one. Secondly, a lot of them are complaining that the obligations and demands on their part are too high for the kind of proposed pay cut to manage that. That the money that they receive is not for them, but to give out at the burials and the harambes and that sort of thing. To what role or to what extent are Kenyans responsible for the behavior that we see MPs portraying? How would you describe that kind of behavior? Because in other countries, in Europe, in America, I don't see members of parliament dishing out funds at rallies, at burials. So what kind of culture do we have in Kenya that puts us in this situation, and that is why maybe this topic will never go away?
You know, it amazes me how members of parliament eat their cake and still have it in the same form. Because you can have it, but it might not be a cake. First and foremost, we wanted to pass a law to regulate the amount of money you spend during campaigns.
Yes.
Who said no to that law? We wanted to pass a law that said what level of education you're supposed to have before you get into any position of leadership, as it were. Who stopped that law from passing? And they said we can move it to another, I don't know how many years. And it will never happen, by the way. So these guys just want to come together and lie to us. Number three, we passed a law, actually, that I think the Elections Act does not allow people to participate in harambes 1 year before elections. Who circumvents that law? And they go behind us and they contribute in churches, and they argue that the law is there and they made the laws. The question is, if you know you're spending so much, and in that parliament then you can make laws that stop you from spending so much. If all of you are spending an equivalent amount of money, then there is no stopping, there is no Kenyan who will force any one of them to spend more. And even if one spends more and you're caught, then you pay the price by way of even being stopped from buying in the first instance. They have the the equipment, the resources to stop this nonsense from going on. They cannot stop a Kenyan from accepting 500 shillings, 50 shillings, 100 shillings when they know that Kenyan is disadvantaged to the extent that they might not even have food on that particular day. You are telling me you tell people to queue for 200, they will not queue. That is wrong. But you have the resources, you have the position in power to make the requisite provisions in law and to actually implement the same, so that we discipline our political processes with time. And I think, to me, this excuse that it's Kenyans that, you know, we pay for funerals, we do let me ask you, if you die in a public hospital and you have a bill of 100,000, 200,000, what stops Parliament from saying, if you die in a public hospital, that is waived? Why don't you pass that legislation? It's a provision. You are supposed to represent people.
Yes.
Those are the issues that are bothering people. If you're in a private hospital and you're unwell and you die, what stops Kenyans from saying, or the parliament from passing a law that says you can get home and then we'll sort out those other issues?
You can see how hospital owners will fight that.
It is, at the end of the day, it is them.
Yes.
It is them that are supposed to make these laws, implement them, so that the burden on Kenyans is to the extent that you don't need them giving you these handouts.
Okay. Looking at research across Africa, Uganda, there was also a big issue about MP salaries, and they were saying Kenya has a bigger economy and thus can pay MPs more. I know that there has been discussions in South Africa, in Nigeria as well, and in Europe. And an interesting proposal was brought up that MP salaries should be linked to the average salaries in a country. Understand? Is that feasible? I don't know. First of all, how would we determine the average salary in Kenya? And then what would we peg MPs on in regards to that? Is it double? Is it times 3? Or the same?
When you look at the MP salaries, in the last 3-4 parliaments, a member of parliament during the first phase of the first government of the late founding father, President Jomo Kenyatta, and the first half of Moi's regime, the members of parliament were the least paid. And that time it was a calling. That time it was service to the citizens. Then government captured that vulnerability of the members of parliament to pass laws that were totally unconstitutional, totally chaotic, removing the tenure of the judges, security of tenure of judges, putting up very draconian laws, treason and the others. So people felt that these people are being misused because they are very poor. That time there was no corruption. Then towards 1980s, 1990s, there was the question of how do we agitate and give these people money and show them that it's no longer the question of service, servant leadership, it's a question of glamour, celebrity status and resources. Maybe there was a hope that if you pay people well, that you'll attract professionals. That was the argument. Skilled, etc. Yes. So now Parliament started what we call the Oloaringo Public Service Parliamentary Service Commission that empower these people. Then later Kenyans realized that once the salaries was left for them to decide, then all of a sudden they outpaced everybody in the job market. Then Kenyans again said, no, these people are going to allocate themselves billions, create an independent commission called the Salaries Remuneration Commission to deal with this monster called the salaries. So when we look at the amount of what Kenyans earn vis-a-vis what parliamentarians earn, Wahiga, if you do a statistics, only 1% of Kenyans earn above 100,000. So when a member 1%, okay, everybody earns below 40,000, 20,000. The majority of Kenyans, as we are talking now, the youths have no salary.
So that's roughly less than 400,000 individuals.
Okay. Then a member of parliament now is being said to be going to earn 621. That might be 0.01% of the Kenyans. They might not be 1,000 people who earn that amount of money. So if that is the position, still these people are not satisfied. I listened yesterday, Jeff Koinange, live, when the 3 ladies were saying, members of parliament, one a governor, that In the campaigns, they were spending between 500,000 to 1 million shillings per day.
Wow.
Per day.
Where's that money coming from?
So the question you ask yourself, where is that money coming from? My good friend Yamunyu has told you that the total salary earning of a president of this nation per year, for 5 years is 60 million. That is the maximum. That 60 million could be spent in these campaigns that ended for 2 hours. Where is the source of this money?
Campaign, yes.
Presidential campaign.
Yes.
So the members of parliament that we have, to me, reflect the society. We cannot expect members of parliament who have come from mass to go to parliament. The society we are living in has changed the value system. A member of parliament, according to the societal expectation, they have set a certain threshold on one, the living standards of that member of parliament, two, the amount of money that every Friday and every Saturday people are expecting from that person.
Yes.
So the question that we need to move further and debate is, why did you vote for that person you are complaining about, who gave you 50 shillings and you voted that person? Why did you vote for a person who told you very well that I will buy this vote for 5 years, I will go to recoup my money? So
let me hold you there, bring Charles in, because I believe we'll be adding some more of our panelists to this show. Let me ask you same question. Should we peg MP salaries on the average salary in our country?
Yes and no. I think what Serem has proposed is reasonable, because if you go to what everyone else is earning, these guys might on average not be able to meet their basic expenses. But I think my concern is the principle behind it. It's not really the nominal terms, the nominal amount. It's not about the money per se, the amounts per se. It is about the message we are sending out there. It is about nurses that are on strike every other day because they're asking for a few 7 billion shillings, 10 billion shillings. It's about doctors, professionals that have been in the making for years, if you ask me. They've been running these things so that you can make laws on them on how they'll be able to operate, and then like my colleague said, the executive can implement the same laws. It is about judicial officers that need to be paid for years of input. You are telling me you can wake up as a Form 4 leaver and become a member of parliament and earn more than a doctor? In all fairness, forget about all these other things. Can we agree that this is reasonable? Moving forward, we'll talk about pegging and all those other things, but in the meantime, can we send the right narrative out there in a country where people are suffering from basics, where basic services are not available? We need to send the right message. It's not about the amount of money that is over and above what everyone is asking for. It is not about even we are not saying they are rich. We are not saying we are actually facilitating them as it should be, but we are saying the message right now should not be about. It should be about being reasonable, being fair, empathizing with Kenyans, looking at the fact that people are out there are going hungry. They cannot afford a meal a day, and we have a national discussion on hundreds of thousands of shillings. I think that is not fair. That's not right.
Charles Dunstan, you've helped us introduce this topic appropriately.
Yes.
But it's only fair that we give members of parliament and people who will be sitting in the National Assembly a chance for a right of response. On the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Didmas Baraza, Member of Parliament, Kimilili. In addition, Gadoni Wamushomba, Woman Representative, Kiambu County, will be joining us. This is a segment you do not want to miss. We'll be right back with more in the Newspaper Review right after this short break.